Have you ever noticed how we plan our lives, right? We make plans, we save money, we work hard, we set goals, we dream about the future. And if we are honest, most of us prepare for one future, the future we hope we will have. Very few of us sit down and think, okay, what if everything changes? Not because we are naive, not because we are irresponsible, but because that's just how we are wired. We naturally think about the path we want life to take. We do not usually prepare for every possible detour. And honestly, I don't think anyone truly can. Life has a way of introducing scenarios you never would have imagined. For me, that realization began in 2020. Now, if you have listened to the podcast before, you've heard me mention that year. It was a year that completely changed my life. It changed a lot of people's lives. But for me, in May of 2020, my dad passed away. I don't know if any of you have lost a parent before, but losing a parent changes something inside of you. It doesn't matter how old you are. There is a before and there is an after, right? At the same time, I was in the process of buying my first home. I was originally supposed to close in October. Everything was lined up, everything was moving forward. And then COVID happened. I caught COVID at the beginning of October. That pushed everything back. What I thought would happen in October didn't happen until December, 2 months later. So now it's December, right? I finally close on the house. I finally move in. I'm unpacking, unpacking the boxes, walking through the empty rooms, figuring things out, thinking about what do we do? Paint colors, furniture, where everything goes, right? I remember standing there thinking, okay, this is a new chapter. I've never been here before. And it truly was. It just wasn't the chapter I thought I was beginning. Because sometimes life lets you think you have reached the destination when you are actually standing at the starting line. At the time, I had no idea what was ahead. I thought the difficult part was behind me. My dad died. I was finally over COVID. The house was finally mine. And you know what I thought. Now life can settle down. Have you ever had that feeling? Have you ever had that moment where you finally exhaled because you believed the storm had passed? You tell yourself, "Whew, okay, I made it," only to discover the real storm hadn't even arrived yet. And I think that's what life is. Life doesn't usually send one challenge. It has a way of stacking them. Not because you're being punished. I don't think it's because of that. Not because you have, done something wrong or anything of that sort. Sometimes That's just how life unfolds. One event leads to another, one decision intersects with another person's circumstances, one unexpected phone call changes everything, and suddenly you are living a life you never planned. If someone had asked me in December of 2020, Wanda, what do you think your life is going to look like over the next few years? I probably would have painted a pretty simple picture. I know I would have. Living in my new home, going to work, building my future, enjoying my peace, probably traveling, maybe even meeting someone to share life with, just living. Nothing crazy, nothing extraordinary, nothing dramatic, just living. But here's something I have learned. We do not prepare for every possible future. We prepare for the future we can imagine. Life introduces the ones we can't. And I think that's where so many of us struggle. Because when life suddenly shifts, our first response is often, what did I do wrong? And the truth is, maybe nothing. Maybe you did not make a bad decision. Maybe life simply introduced variables you could never have practiced for and you could never have predicted. I think that's an important distinction because sometimes we carry guilt for outcomes that were never within our control. Sometimes we blame ourselves for simply being human, for not seeing around corners, for not predicting tomorrow. But none of us can. We can prepare, we can plan, we can be responsible, definitely save, pray, think ahead, but we cannot anticipate every circumstance and situation. We cannot. And that's exactly where my story begins. Because what happened next, it was not one event. It was a series of events, one after another, each one changing the direction of my life in ways I never saw coming. And before I knew it, the life I thought I was building looked nothing like the life I was living. You know, there's a phrase people say all the time: life happens. I have said it. You've probably said it. But I don't think we really understand what that means until life starts happening back to back. Not one thing, not two things, one thing after another. And before you have had a chance to process the last thing, something else happens. That's what my life became. When I moved into my house, I was living by myself. Honestly, I enjoyed it. It was quiet, peaceful. I was I was learning me and I was learning my new home. I was learning what it meant to truly have my own space. I wasn't thinking about surviving. I was simply living. Then I tore my meniscus. Now, if you have ever had a knee injury or an injury altogether, that suddenly changes your mobility. And you know how humbling that is. Simple things become difficult. Let's not talk about getting up and walking. Imagine having a house. You have things to do around the house. Imagine driving, just standing, even carrying groceries, things you never thought about before. Now, you suddenly appreciate. One of my friends came to help me during that time, and I was grateful. I really was. But life was not finished changing the script. While she was away visiting family, she had a massive seizure. She fell, hit her head, and the doctors described it as a stroke-like event. This all happened years ago. This happened in 2021. This happened years ago, right? And even today, she's still dealing with the effects. One moment changed the trajectory of her life. And watching someone you care about go through something like that, it changes you too. You are reminded just how fragile life really is. Just when I thought things might begin settling down again, life shifted again. So around the fall of 2021, my family needed help. So my sister, my nephew, my great nephew, they moved down and started living with me. So now, if you're doing the math, it went from me to me and my good friend, and then my sister, my nephew, and my great nephew. Now, I just said I purchased the house in December of 2020. This happened by September, October of 21. But, and I'm going to say this, but my family, talking about my sister, my nephews, we actually had a plan. My brother, he lived about 5 minutes away from me. So we worked it out, right? Because it's just 5 minutes. Simple plan. The fellas would live with my brother, their uncle, and my sister would live with me. Simple, right? uh, yeah, it was simple. We talked about it. We agreed on it. Everybody understood it. It made complete sense. Split it out. Everybody said it's manageable. I was not naive. I was not going to say that it was going to be easy. I never looked at it blindly like that, but it was manageable. Then my brother died. Just like that. Right after Thanksgiving in December. Everything we planned changed like that. And that's something I've learned about life. Sometimes it isn't the challenge itself, it is the challenge that destroys the plan you already made. Because now there was no dividing of responsibilities, there was no sharing of the load, there was no backup plan. There was just me. Me. Suddenly, my quiet house wasn't quiet anymore. It became home for 4 additional people. 4 people. 4 people, each carrying their own pain, their own fears, their own uncertainties. One person struggling with serious health issues, another person facing cancer, a young man trying to find work, a teenager trying to finish high school. Everyone arrived with luggage, not just one, multiple. And it was crazy because literally it was multiple luggages. So imagine this. You have the suitcases, right? And now I have the emotional suitcases, the financial suitcases, the physical limitations, grief, fear, just questions altogether. And here is something I don't think we talk about enough. Family does not stop being family just because everyone becomes an adult. Sometimes we assume that because we're older. We assume that relationships automatically work. They don't.